morning, esteemed viewers. It's a pleasure to be here once again. My name is Oko Chukwunayan Good Success. I am an associate at Agbakoba-Onyejianya. And with me here today is someone very special, none other than Beverley Agbakoba-Onyejianya. She's an arbitrator, she's a mediator, she's also one of the topmost sport lawyers in Nigeria. But most importantly, she's the head of the Alternative Dispute Resolution team here at Agbakoba-Onyejianya. Ms. Beverley, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Naya.
It's a pleasure to have you here.
Great to be here.
So today, viewers, we're going to be talking about the impact of technology on ADR. It's no news that technology basically has changed virtually everything that we know. So I'm going to be asking Mrs. Beverley here a few questions just so we can have a more robust conversation. And so our very first question is, how exactly has technology impacted ADR? Like 20 years down the line, nobody would really talk about online shopping. They won't talk about e-shopping or anything like that. But now it's very common. So these are just a few examples of how technology has changed our lives as we know it. So what has it changed so far in ADR?
ADR, that's a really good question. And yes, the way technology has become ubiquitous in our regular lives, shopping, security, in the same vein, it's also impacting access to justice. And what's the whole benefit of ADR? To help increase that access to justice, because the courts are already bogged down and just jam-packed. So technology is assisting or working hand in hand with ADR to make access to justice more accessible. Let's look at it this way. Parties no longer necessarily sit in the same country. They no longer sit even in the same state or jurisdictions. People shouldn't be limited by geographical location. So technology with the likes of online platforms, whether it's Teams, whether it's Zoom, they're able, Google Meet, there's just so many, they're able to now simultaneously meet on platforms that enable virtual hearings, remote hearings. So it's effectively called ODR, which stands for Online Dispute Resolution. And ODR is becoming widespread, which is exciting, no doubt, thanks to the impact of COVID-19. It changed a lot. It's not to say that remote hearings suddenly appeared post-COVID-19. They were available, but probably a lot more expensive. Parties just didn't feel the need. In fact, the institutions themselves didn't feel the need. It was something that was always very much an afterthought. But COVID-19 showed us that things can be different. We can actually be more expedient. We can actually be more, we can actually organize virtual hearings.
And it would work.
Yes, and it can work. So ODR is really changing the way we do things. I think what I would love as a mediator, arbitrator, is to see ODR coming more fully into the litigation system. So yes, we're talking about the benefits of technology and what it's done to support ADR, and it's doing a lot of great things. The ADR community, the ADR institutions all over the world, Nigeria, no exception, whether it's the Lagos Multi-Door Court, whether it's the LCA, Lagos Court of Arbitration, you name it, they're all using online dispute resolution. And of course, the wider international community, from the ICC, Nairobi, where I'm also registered as a mediator. In fact, think about the opportunities open to all of us as arbitrators and mediators. You no longer have to think about just arbitrating or mediating in your jurisdiction. You can now potentially join arbitration mediation institutions all over the world and sit comfortably from your base or your country, your home, and sit in on these proceedings. So it's certainly bringing the world together. It's certainly giving us professionals in this ADR industry a lot more opportunities that would have been available 20 years ago, where, yes, you did have the top senior ADR professionals sitting on institutions, on panels all over the world, but you would have to factor the cost of flying out to those countries. Maybe you're in Singapore, maybe you're at the LCIA in the UK, maybe you're with the American Arbitration Association, wherever you are, you would have had to bear that additional cost. So now you can be panel member and still sit in your country of origin,
Reducing the cost.
reducing costs, which is what parties also want, reducing costs and making it far more accessible and attractive. So technology is certainly making ADR much more attractive. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, wow, that's like I've learned so much already. That's true, because I know just a few years down the line, even when we talk about people approaching the courts to settle disputes, we usually get things like, oh, it takes too long. I would just let my rights slide. I would just leave it. The religion is afraid, leave it to God.
Leave it to God.
But now I'm glad that more people can access justice.
Yeah.
And it's way faster.
Yes, it's definitely more expedient. Yeah.
So what has been the challenges and advantages of ADR? I know you've mentioned accessibility and the cost, but what other advantages has it brought so far?
Okay, other additional advantages, I would say maybe standardization. So at least with virtual hearings, remote hearings, you don't just, you're not left to your devices. Institutions all over the world, again, Nigeria no exception, have introduced protocols on virtual hearings. I believe the African Arbitration Academy has done that. The ICC also has a checklist on virtual hearings. Here in Nigeria, we have practice directions issued by the High Court on how to conduct these hearings. So there's a sense of assurance, there's a sense of safety, because parties need to feel safe.
Yes, they have to trust.
They have to trust the process, and they shouldn't feel any less secure with it being virtual than if it was physical. So for me, honestly, the challenges, I don't see many challenges. What I do see maybe is it's not widespread enough. Some states in Nigeria are taking on the initiative a lot more than other states. So I feel like the challenge could potentially be the playing field is not level. So depending on what state you're transacting business, depending on what state you live in, you are more likely to get access to these benefits if you are in, say, Lagos, for instance. So that, for me, is the pressing challenge. How can we truly have a national approach to the use of virtual hearings? Because definitely not all states are moving at the same pace. So for me, that's a live and present challenge. It would be great to see a lot more states take up this opportunity to implement directions on virtual hearings. Okay, so yes, Lagos is always it's always ahead. But I suppose this could be how would I say, a challenge to other states to get on board, because it will do your jurisdiction, your state so much good. It increases investor confidence. Imagine going into a state other than the usual in Nigeria to do business, because there's a real good opportunity there. But you're put off a little bit because you're not certain how quickly your dispute will get settled. Exactly.
And it's business. Business has to move fast.
Exactly. So it's sort of an appeal to people listening, watching, that if there are no virtual hearings currently conducted in your state, it's an appeal to, get your state involved, either approaching the Commissioner for Justice, the state AG. Just let's have all 36 states fully on board with virtual remote hearings for ADR. Now that would be truly progressive and fantastic for business, restoring that, business confidence that we desperately need to get ourselves out of this sort of economic doldrums. Because at the end of the day, what do we need to boost economic activity? We need investments, local and foreign investments, right? So on the side of that, you need a good, functional, legal resolution, dispute resolution system. It goes hand in hand. People don't go to countries, jurisdictions where they are uncertain how they'll get their matters resolved if it results in a dispute. So people really need to begin to see these things as going hand in hand. It's almost like start as you mean to continue. If I go to a jurisdiction like, say, UK or the US, there's confidence that if anything goes wrong, I can approach the courts. I can access ADR. So we need to really boost that investor confidence by encouraging widespread adoption and implementation of ADR and virtual hearings.
I agree with what you said, that we have to improve investor confidence. But where do you see ODR like in the next few years?
I see ODR becoming mainstream, and that's exciting. Like I said, ODR in itself is an industry now. It's a sub-industry under alternative dispute resolution. Ideally, I would love to see ODR also come under litigation. But for the purpose of today, we're talking really about ADR. But yes, I see it going mainstream. I see it being adopted more widely across more states in Nigeria. In fact, let's think of it on an African level as well. I can count the number of African countries that are really promoting ADR. You have Egypt, you have Kenya, you have South Africa. Kenya is doing a lot, I must say. So Egypt, South Africa, Kenya, I'm not quite sure which other ones are really participating, but for me, those countries I've mentioned, they are really the leaders when it comes to ADR in Africa and then ODR, okay? So it would be wonderful if African states can truly all merge in terms of their approach to ODR and adopt ODR more widespread. And guess what? We've got AFTA. We've got the African Free Continental Trade Agreement. Imagine how that would be boost. Imagine how ODR widely adopted across African states would significantly boost confidence in AFTA. And not just that, it would boost adoption and actual implementation of AFTA. Because really, after a few years of the passing of that act and also the nationalization of that act, we're still yet to see and reap benefits. And I do honestly believe it's because the African states are not yet truly comfortable nor confident in the system. So if we have a harmonization, we have OHADA. OHADA are the Francophone countries, and they are doing quite well in terms of how they relate with each other, the protocols around OHADA, and then you have the Anglophone countries. So imagine a situation where the whole of Africa really moves forward to implement ODR across the various jurisdictions, strengthening of the ADR rules and processes with their corresponding institutions, ADR institutions in these countries. You will then find trade will increase, intra-African trade will increase, because we certainly can't talk about ODR in a silo. We need to talk about ODR in the context of African intra-trade. We know that intra-African trade is very low. We as a country in Nigeria, we trade more with international partners. We trade more with the UK. China is certainly growing in trade as a trade partner. We don't trade much with our African customers, and we should. Egypt, Kenya, whatever it is, we should have our African brother and sister countries as first and foremost major trade partners. And I believe it's because these mechanisms, such as alternative dispute resolution, all those mechanisms are just not fully implemented across these African states. And I know it's something that we always talk about, me and you know, yes, about how can we just increase, the number of African arbitrators, for instance. So all these things, all these ideas are all very interconnected. Let's boost intra-African trade via the regulatory instruments, the legal instrument which exists, which is AFTA. Let all African states take steps to set up strong ADR institutions.
And also foster it.
And then support that process with ODR. And that way, it's just a matter of time where trade is boosted, uptake of ODR is also boosted.
Thank you very much. So what emerging technologies do you think will most likely shape ADR in the next few years?
I mean, the technology that's on everybody's minds right now is the impact of AI, artificial intelligence, and how artificial intelligence will impact dispute resolution, how it will impact the legal industry. I know we've had that conversation as well. I mean, it is possible that AI technologies will potentially be integrated into ADR by way of reviewing the cases, quickly finding touch points that a live mediator or arbitrator can use. I don't feel like an AI arbitrator or an AI mediator will necessarily take over from humans, but I feel like AI could be a useful tool in the process of resolving disputes. I do feel that because AI is ultimately about data. It's gathering data and analyzing it and synthesizing it much, much faster than a human can. So there is some merit in using AI as a tool to support a dispute resolution process. Whether it can take over completely, you know what? Never say never. I don't believe in saying no, because when you look at interviews from the 80s and 90s about the impact of the internet,
or even airplanes,
you laugh at the people who wrote it off completely. It's like they're eating their words today. So I'm not going to rule it out completely. The possibility is there. I don't think I would like a world where AI completely takes over the role of a human arbitrator or mediator. But I do feel that there is room to use it as a tool to help dispense decisions more effectively. So arbitrators have to write awards, for instance, right? Potentially, and awards can take quite some time to write. They can be quite tasking to write. Even mediators, I also write reports. So I wouldn't mind an AI tool that could help me put those reports together. So I see it more as a tool to support the actors. I don't see it as a tool to take over. If it comes to that, oh well, then we're now going to be thinking about, do we still have jobs? But honestly, I do feel that for as long as, people feel that human connection is important, because human connection it's very important. In fact, it goes a long way in resolving disputes. If you're a mediator, for instance, a lot of it can be to do with the way you conduct, facilitate, your objectivity. So I can't rule out the importance of human connection just yet. AI may be sentient, but I don't think it can completely take over human connection. So yes, I do see its role increasing and becoming more widespread and mainstream. But I really don't want to see a world where you have AI mediators or AI arbitrators. Maybe for very intricate cases or in very unusual situations, maybe, okay? But I'm still very pro-human. But yeah, as a tool, yes, to support the process.
I really like your stance. You're not saying never, but maybe.
I'm being a lawyer. It depends. That's the lawyer's argument. It depends. It depends. And I should mention that we just wrote our book, Comprehensive Guide to Technology in Our Practice in Nigeria. Really, really proud about this book. And one thing we do address at length is ODR. And we give, at the end of the day, this book is about law and practice in Nigeria. So we give some really good tips about how to adopt ODR and just how to be prepared for virtual hearings, remote hearings, what lawyers can do to actually play in that space as well. So yeah, it's worth reading and getting it on the website.
And so you can always get it on the website. So alongside, we also have a survey report on ADR. It also has a section for the impact of technology on ADR. So you might want to check that out on our website. Mrs. Beverley, it's been a pleasure having you. I've enjoyed every bit of this conversation, and I look forward to having you here next time.
Thank you so much.
So our esteemed viewers, I remain Oko Shikunayen, good success.
And I am Beverley Agbakoba-Onyejianya.
I've enjoyed every bit of this session, and I hope you did too. And I look forward to seeing you some other time. Thank you for listening. Bye.